So if we assume he was broke, and it's we know Gen Z is having a hard time in the job market for various reasons. So he would be looking at a life of, this would be hard, and maybe he didn't want to make all this effort anymore, and he kills a person. He kills someone who has a lot of things that he did not have. So Charlie Kirk had money, a family, status, an audience, powerful connections to politics, and all the things that Tyler Robinson did not have. So maybe that plays a role in this. And it's like maybe he was one of the young kids who couldn't really decide, do I like Leninism more, revolutionary terrorist Leninism more, or maybe I'm trying this, maybe I should try some brand of ultra right wing. Maybe he wasn't really sure, and we don't have his full online history yet, so it's kind of hard to say at the moment if he was, flip-flopping and trying out different things, and then he finally settled on this assassination, and it's one bullet that hit, causing all these reverberations around the world. And usually, if you pick a target like this, this could escalate things. This could lead to other attacks, either copycat or retaliatory attacks. I mean, we saw this. I mean, this was even on mainstream news, I think, in all over the world. I think I saw a clip from Sky News Australia, I think it was. This is owned by the Murdoch media group, so conservative, very, very powerful. And they showed these clips of asking people on the street, young people, quite a few women, what do you think about the assassination of Charlie Kirk? And a lot of the responses were, it's great, I mean, that's a good day, and blah, 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 blah. So you could expect retaliatory attacks, then this could go back and forth, kind of like what these ultra right-wingers used to believe when they were reading this novel, The Turner Diaries, where a terrorist strategy, ramps up to a civil war, and then the right-wingers win. And I also, before we had this suspect in custody, I mean, obviously I was talking about the different types or categories of killers of that fashion, or terrorists of that fashion. And I also gave out one possibility besides the regular ones, and that would be the category of the professional destabilizer. This sort of terrorist is either a professional working for private customers or foreign governments, or he has been coached by professionals who remain in the dark and keep minimal ties that cannot be traced. The ultimate motive is destabilization of the target population, expecting retaliatory attacks. So we don't know if somebody offered money to this killer. This guy that's now in prison, maybe somebody offered him money and said, oh, you can make this work, you can escape, you can hide your tracks, hide the gun and have a disguise, and then we'll promise you a bunch of money and maybe a Russian passport, or who knows what else. I mean, doesn't this remind you a little bit of the first attempted assassination by Lee Harvey Oswald, when he was trying to sniper kill a senator from Texas, this politician from Texas, this right winger, and he missed, and Oswald missed. And he got this, and Oswald, he's been a communist since his teenage days. Oswald always wanted to be this revolutionary hero, conducting assassinations, and then his exit plan was to go to Cuba or the Soviet Union, being celebrated as a hero, giving lectures, being rich and famous, and all that. So this is kind of like the possibilities that exist. And I also gave two historical examples. We talk about targeted killings that have political ramifications and that sort of thing. One case, this is from the Cold War, very famous over here, of course. The left-wing West Berlin student Benno Ohnesorg was shot dead by West Berlin police officer Karl-Heinz Kurras in 1967 during a demonstration against the visit of the Shah of Iran. And this police officer was considered to be very, very right-wing. This caused a significant radicalization in Germany across all political camps, which played into Moscow's hands. In 2009, Stasi files revealed that Mr. Kurras was a secret SED party member, Communist Party member, and an unofficial employee of East Germany's spy service, the Ministry for State Security, also known as the Stasi. It has not been proven whether Mr. Kurras intentionally committed murder on behalf of the Stasi, but we can, of course, speculate. And a photographer from the communist or East communist propaganda newspaper Wahrheit, that means truth, took the famous photo of the dead Ohnesorg. So at the right moment, at the right place, this guy is there, shoots the photo, and this becomes like a big deal in the media. A certain Alfred Menschel, a medical assistant with communist connections, also happened to be at the scene and treated the man. The Stasi obtained a copy of the court records in lightning time, had the opportunity to shape propaganda. And Mr. Kurras had declared in writing to the Stasi that he considered the Eastern path to be the right policy. Although he lacked the typical Marxist-Leninist training, he consumed books from the East. So this guy had a real right-wing background, but then he became a leftist. So he had one foot in both worlds. Like maybe this guy that's the suspect now in the Kirk shooting. A similar case, or another case of a dead influencer. Another case, major case, was that of Rudi Dutschke. And so he was originally a citizen of Eastern Germany, the communist part of Germany, but he chose to flee to the West and lived as a college student until the age of 33, but his career as a professional lecturer or author never materialized. Instead, he became an influencer, wanted to promote socialist revolutions worldwide, using force if necessary, yet he disliked the USSR. So then there was an assassination attempt against him in 1968. Assassination attempt carried out by the right-winger Josef Bachmann. But Bachmann's group, however, was said to have contacts with the Stasi, which was not that unusual because the communists were trying to infiltrate the extreme right-wing. So again, you had a whole bunch of, in Germany, Europe, France, Italy, you had all kinds of, super right-wing groups. Right-wing groups who were starting to work with the communists, even though that's, kind of moronic. And so Moscow deeply despised all left-wing movements that did not accept Moscow's leadership. Assassination attempts on prominent dissidents like Trotsky in exile were planned long in advance. And there was an informant in the leftist student group SDS, that's like Students for Democratic Society. We had the same over here. This informant reported to the East Berlin Ministry for State Security, the Stasi, at that time that Dutschke represented a completely anarchist position. Dutschke spoke exclusively of horrible socialism in the East. The Eastern Bloc was in a panic about democratization movements at the time. And so, it would have made sense for the Stasi or the KGB to kill Mr. Dutschke and to get rid of him, and at the same time create a martyr for the left. And so Dutschke survived the first assassination attempt, but then he died in his bathtub. mysteriously died in his own bathtub. And then, one of these research institutes, they found an old letter of him. In the letter from 1975, he wrote to his wife of his 99.9% conviction that if I die, then at the current stage, it is more likely to be carried out, or the murder would be more likely to be carried out by the Soviet Union's secret services than by the Western secret services. So this is kind of the craziness that we have to consider when there are high-profile influencers being killed or somebody else is killed, which has a large effect on many, many, many people, and radicalizing, generations. And Dutschke was not a harmless guy. I mean, he had connections to the infamous Gian Giacomo Feltrinelli. Feltrinelli was kind of managing all kinds of things back in the day. So yeah, this is something that I wrote before they caught this the suspect. And of course, the other types of terrorists. I mean, many Muslims didn't like Charlie Kirk. Anti-Russian people didn't like Charlie Kirk. He kind of sort of flip-flopped a little bit on Israel, which is why now the internet is claiming, of course, that the Mossad must have killed him because he was kind of, talking.
Well, the anti-Semites are always going to blame Israel or the Jews for everything.
I mean, he was pro-Israel. I mean, Kirk was pro-Israel, but then he started saying stuff about Gaza and this, that, and the other.
Well, he was, I think Kirk was influenced by this Russian propaganda. He said terrible things about Zelensky. He said terrible things about Ukraine. This is one of the things. The thing about the really well-liked popular conservatives in the post, I guess the post William F. Buckley conservative land, is that I've been unhappy with all of them. I'm unhappy with, I'm actually unhappy with Buckley. I told him never to send me that magazine, National Review, again when Buckley attacked James Angleton and Gallitzin right when their predictions were coming true. And I know what's wrong with the conservative movement. I know that it's a movement that lies to itself. They are making the corpse of the civilization they think they're protecting, because by the way, they're conservatives without anything left to conserve. They've lost, and they're declaring victory under Reagan. It's morning in America. No, I'm sorry that it's evening and you're mistaking the dawn for the dusk. This is the problem with them, this lack of honesty about where we are in history. We are not bringing something back to life. And I looked at Turning Point USA. My father loved it. He gave money to it, and he just loved Charlie Kirk. My dad adored him, and I know why. Because Charlie was, a true believing Christian conservative, and he wore it on his sleeve, and he was just a brilliant debater, such a brilliant guy, that he was, he did have some effect on the campuses. He had an effect. And now he's a martyr, by the way. And this is one of the things. Yeah, assassinations can work. I think the Kennedy assassination was a disastrous thing, and it worked for the communists because nobody believes Lee Harvey Oswald, the communists, shot him. Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy, they all say, and the CIA did it, or the oil men, or the Texas cattlemen, or the Mossad was there. It was a firing squad with the Dealey Lama and Dealey Plaza. It was just they nobody will see it the way it is because the communist active measures, the East Bloc active measures after the assassination worked. So the assassination worked for them. But in this case, and I'm not going to say blanket that assassinations always backfire because they don't. But in this case, I think this assassination, unless they can cause a civil war here, it's going to backfire because he's a martyr. And it's affected young people
Yeah.
in a way that maybe Charlie Kirk's message to the younger generation is going to have an effect. Maybe, the jury's still out on this, and so we're going to see what's going to
Yeah, I
happen.
mean,
But
surely this assassination will, I think, increase dramatically, increase the cost of engaging. Especially in the real world. Person to person. I mean, he was traveling a lot. I mean, Kirk was traveling a lot, and traveling is a burden. I mean, you have your family. You want to spend more time with your family, and I think I heard something.
I think his family came with him on this trip. They were there.
Yeah, and
He had
some
his family with him.
yeah, and that's not that's not the funnest thing in the world to travel a lot. I mean, I just traveled to London, which is not that far away, and with my family. We spend a little over a week in London, and despite everything, the airplanes, the London Tube, the underground system, but it still takes a toll. It's still a hassle. And when an assassination like this happens, others will either have to pay a lot more for security, or they will not travel. They will just sit in a studio and just talk into a microphone.
They'll do it digitally. Yes, of course.
Yeah, and of course, or they do it anonymously. They create. And I always hated that on the internet. I mean, some people they were celebrating that you could have 10 different personas, and you could write everything and write crazy stuff and hide behind the anonymity. And I was always in public. It was like, yeah, here I am. That's me. That's it, and very transparent about everything. And it's like it's a bad thing if people don't engage. If everybody's kind of.
Have you ever had death threats?
A few, not the really serious types. I mean, it was more like conspiracy guys who had a little bit too much to drink. Sometimes when you get the sense that somebody hates you and is a bit schizophrenic, that's kind of a different thing. Because
I've had that. Yeah,
because you don't
death threats. Yeah, I've had death threats, by the way. But I think that and I've seen other people in my position, things happen to them.
Yeah.
That you wonder what happened to them. Were they fed poison? Why did they go nuts? Why did they suddenly come down with a rare disease? You wonder because you don't know. Because a lot of journalists, look at Alexander Litvinenko. He was poisoned with polonium. Yeah. We know the Russians did it. The evidence, Scotland Yard, the British, they show it. Look at the Skripals. Look at all the people. Look at Navalny and in Russia, poisoned with
and people will inevitably get more afraid. I mean, you saw this with everybody who commented on this. I mean, if it doesn't matter if it's Bernie Sanders, doesn't matter if it's Alex Jones, doesn't matter if it's any whoever, they all get the sense of could this happen to me? And
this is what Governor Cox in Utah said, is that this is an attack on all of us. It's an attack on freedom of speech, because when you shoot down a brilliant speaker and debater like Charlie Kirk, you are intimidating all other speakers, especially speakers who are within the same spectrum of opinion as Kirk. This is intimidation, because people then think, and I speak before a live audience, as I spoke in Toronto. Last year I spoke in Milwaukee. I spoke in Pennsylvania. So I had 3 speaking engagements before large groups of people. And you do that and you think, well, people have access to you, right? They have access to you. If some nut with a gun comes in there and really hates what you have to say, but I was not famous, so I wasn't too worried. But if you get famous, if your message is getting across, some nut job or some angry enemy is going to come up and shoot you. That suddenly you're silenced, right?
And security is expensive. I mean, Kirk, I mean, Kirk was paying for security. Others are paying for security. Alex Jones
Was he paying for security? Was he?
I think so. I mean,
Yeah.
some standard bodyguards, I think, and also, I mean, Alex Jones was complaining about security necessities. I mean, I think when he goes out, he has bodyguards around him, and also when people figure out your home address, and then you get sent more serious death threats or threats against your children. I mean, you have to pay for security, and then you have the mental toll that it takes on you. And I also heard from somebody, I don't know if this confirmed, somebody who really liked Kirk. He said that, yeah, Kirk had this, chronic back pain of some sort, but he still made the effort to do these appearances and honor these dates that had been set up. So it takes a toll, right?